Hare Devi Javachai Namo Namaha. Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Budle Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vacharani Nivasesha Srinivadi Paschata Dejatarni. We offer our most respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who, just like desire trees, who could fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitana bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Okay. I think so. Why, who was supposed to? Oh. I mean, it's Thursday, right? Okay. Don't tell Irmela I'm giving class. Don't tell Irmela I'm giving class. No. Jayo Radha Madhova Kunya Bihari Jayo Radha Madhova Kunya Bihari Gopijana Malabak Hiri Baladari Gopijana Malabak Hiri Baladari Yasodanana Brajadanana Yasodanana Brajadanana Yamuna Tera Banachari Yamuna Tera Banachari Jayo Radha Madhova Kunya Vihati Jayo Radho Madhava Kunya Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhare Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhare Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Rabana Chari Yamuna Rabana Chari Jayo Radhu Madhava Kunya Bihati Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravatikacharya also tell us that the Shimad is divine grace. Abhaya Charananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasili Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuradam Ki Jai, Jagatapasami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Lasadevi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Harihabo. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya. Udle Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravati Pachari Devasesha Nivadi Paschata Deja Tarni. Okay, put the garland on. So today we are reading from the beginning of chapter 31 of the 10th canto. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, there's a chapter summary. This thing. Okay, that's good. This chapter relates how the gopis, overwhelmed by feelings of separation from Krishna, sat down on the bank of the Yamuna and began praying for his audience and singing his glories. Because the gopis had dedicated their minds and very lives to Krishna, they are beside themselves with the transcendental pain of separation. But their crying, which appears like evidence of misery, actually shows their exalted state of transcendental bliss. As it is said, Yatadeka Vaishnava Vyavahara Dukhi Nischya Jani Hase Paramananda Sukhi. Whenever one sees a Vaishnava acting unhappy, one should know, if sure, that he is actually experiencing the highest spiritual bliss. Thus each of the gopis began addressing Lord Shri Krishna according to her individual mode of ecstasy, and they all prayed for him for his mercy. For him or or to him anyway. Whatever. As the pastimes of Krishna spontaneously arose in the minds of the gopis, they sang their song, which relieves the agony of those suffering from the burning pain of separation from Krishna, and which bestows supreme auspiciousness. They sang, O Lord, O lover, O cheater. When we remember your smile, your loving glances, and your pastimes with your boyhood friends, we become extremely agitated. Remembering your lotus, the screen, nobody's using, no one's operating the screen. That's all right. Yeah, you got to take the, okay. Remembering your lotus face, adorned with locks of blackish hair, smeared with the dust of the cows, we become irrevocably attached to you. And when we remember how you follow the cows from forest to forest with your tender feet, we feel great pain. In their separation from Krishna, the gopis considered a single moment an entire age. Even when they had previously seen him, they had found the blinking of their eyelids intolerable, for it blocked their vision of him for a fraction of a second. The ecstatic sentiments for Lord Krishna the gopis expressed may appear like symptoms of lust, but in reality they are manifestations of their pure desire to satisfy the Supreme Lord's spiritual senses. There is not even a slightest trace of lust in these moods of the gopis. So we're going to read text 1. So please repeat. Gopya huchu jayati te adikam janmana vrajaha shayata indira shashvad atra hi dayata drishyatam dikshu tavakas twayi. You got it? Dritasavas Twang Vichinvate Gopya Uchu Jayatite Didikam Janmana Vraja Shayata Indira Shashvaratrahi Dayatadvashyatam dikshutavakas Tvayidrita shavas tvam vichinvate Gopya uchuhu Jayate te de Kam janmana vraja Shayata indira shashvadatrahi Dayata dusyatam dikshutavakas Twahi drishta savas tvam vichinvate Gopya uchuhu Jayati te dikam janmana vraja Shayata indira shashvadatrahi Dayata drishyatam dikshutavakas Tvayidrita shavas tvam vichinvate. Okay, anyone? All right. Gopya Vuchu. The gopis said, Jayati is glorious. Te, your. Adhikam, exceedingly. Janmada, by the birth. Brajaha, the land of Braja. Shayate is residing. Indra, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. Shashvat, perpetually. Atra, here. He, indeed. Tayata, O beloved. Drishyatam, may you be seen. Dikshu, in all directions. Tavakaha, your devotees. Twai, for your sake. Drita, sustained. Asavaha, their life heirs. Twam, for you. Vichinvate, they are searching. Translation. The gopis said, O beloved, your birth in the land of Braja has made it exceedingly glorious, for thus Indira, the goddess of fortune, always resides here. It is only for your sake that we, your devoted servants, maintain our lives. We have been searching everywhere for you, so please show yourself to us. So you can repeat, the gopis said, O beloved, your birth in the land of Braja has made it exceedingly glorious. And thus Indira, the goddess of fortune, always resides here. It is only for your sake that we, your devoted servants, maintain our lives. We have been searching everywhere for you. So please show yourself to us. So purport by the servants of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Those who are familiar with the art of chanting Sanskrit verses will be able to appreciate the especially exquisite Sanskrit poetry of this chapter. Specifically, the poetic meter of the verses is extraordinarily beautiful, and also for the most part, in each line, the first and seventh syllables begin with the same consonant as do the second syllables of all four lines. It's true. So, okay. Gopya uchu jayati tedikam janmara barja sheta indra shashvaratrahi tayata dushyatam dikshutavakas dvai drta savastram vichinvate. So Om Ganat Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So of course this is the chapter of the gopis singing about their separation from Krishna. So there's a vast difference, as we've many times talked about before, between the separation that one feels in the material world and the separation that one feels between Vaishnavas, and also the separation that one feels between the Vaishnava and Krishna. The difference is that when you have separation spiritually, You're actually in touch with the person. And when you have separation materially, there's absolutely no connection. It's just your imagination about what they may be doing. Just like, of course, I hate to use this example, just like sometimes in the Army or in the Navy, soldiers out there, or sailors out there in the ship, and they're sailing and they have a picture of their wife, girlfriend, or whatever she may be. Or nowadays they have lady sailors, a picture of her husband. And thinking, oh, love, love, love. And then all of a sudden they get something called a Dear John letter. I don't think you know what a Dear John letter is. Dear John letter means, Dear John, I found someone else. And then, the guy is completely depressed, bewildered, and everything like that. And of course, sometimes they even commit suicide. So the point is that he's thinking one thing and she's thinking another thing. And even when there's connection between two people in the material sphere, each one is thinking something different. For example, let's say if you go to a car dealership to buy a car, one of my typical examples, is that the car dealer is thinking, let me get this sucker. And the person who's trying to purchase the car is thinking, he's so nice. He remembers my name. Is this a nice person? So there's a complete difference in consciousness. And even in so-called loving relationships, a complete difference in consciousness. I mean, it's really, there's no, there's no synchronicity between the two personalities. So, but between Krishna and the gopis, or between the devotees and other devotees when they're on a spiritual platform, there's a synchronicity between the consciousnesses of the two. I mean, they're actually connected. Like when the gopis think of, when the devotees think of their spiritual master, like when I think of Prabhupada, there's connection. Like Prabhupada said, there was never a separation between him and his spiritual master. And it's not just simply in the imagination, because the spiritual master is present in the picture, the spiritual master is present in his instructions, in his mission. So one is always connected like that. So in the gopis' feelings of separation, they're actually connected with Krishna. And Krishna's arranged this whole situation so they'll be more connected, because vipralamba is actually a higher stage than meeting in the spiritual realm, because the intensity of emotion is greater. Now this is really important as far as connecting ourselves with Krishna, because it's very important to connect through the heart. We use the brain to focus the heart. Just like the gopis, they didn't perform any of the preliminary Vedic rituals or anything like that. And generally, they're considered Vaishya girls. Not Brahmin girls, not even Kshatriya girls, but Vaishya girls. So there's none of these samskaras. Well, there's sure there were some samskaras, but none of the Brahminical samskaras or anything were performed. So, but still, they've given their hearts to Krishna. I mean, this is very similar, of course, to the wives of the Brahmanas, who were not the actual performers of Vedic rituals. They were assisting their husbands in performing the Vedic rituals, but they had given their hearts to Krishna. So oftentimes devotees think, and in the immature stage, that the rituals are the essence. In other words, the external activities and all the samskaras and all that other stuff are the essence of devotional service. But it's not. Those rituals are meant to help us focus the heart and focus the mind. But if one becomes focused just on the Vedic injunctions and the rituals, That's described by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Upadeshamrita as niyamagraha. Hmm. Niyamagraha basically means, actually it's two things, niyamagraha, niyamagraha. So niyamagraha means they follow all these rules and regulations but are not focusing the heart, focusing the mind, understanding the goal of Krishna consciousness. And so we find this very prominent. Right now we're having discussions on the internet about this particular thing, how people are thinking, basically quoting all these different Sanskrit injunctions, verses, and everything like that, basically to deny others, and whether they're of a different gender or whether they're a different nationality or whatever, because they don't understand or can't speak Sanskrit so expertly, to deny others a position in the realm of bhakti. And they're equating bhakti, people are equating bhakti with a performance of rituals. It's not. Rituals are useful when they actually help you develop bhakti. For example, Lord Chaitanya in his surrendering principles talks about accepting everything favorable, rejecting everything unfavorable, and Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita specifically mentions things that are favorable, things that are unfavorable may differ according to different cultures or situations in the world. So this equation of the external activities with bhakti or external rituals with bhakti is something like what we call one of the darshans, Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa is very interesting. Like there's Uttara Mimamsa and Purva Mimamsa. Uttara Mimamsa is generally understood as like devotional service, understanding, or at least understanding or trying to understand one's transcendental identity. And Purva Mimamsa is generally understood as Karma Mimamsa. Actually, this is something that was dealt with by Krishna during the Govardhan pastimes, where Krishna was espousing the Karma Mimamsa philosophy. Karma Mimamsa basically means that if you act nicely, then even if there are demigods, and it's not that important whether or not they're demigods or God or whatever, then you're bound to get the good result. So everything is based on action. But that's not really the point in devotional service. That, of course, actions are important. We should act nicely insofar as our ability is concerned. But the real point is the actual feelings in the heart, not the actions themselves. The actions are meant to give us a framework to develop the proper feelings, the proper devotion in the heart. I mean, for example, there's that example, again, of that devotee who is performing improper actions insofar as making his offerings because he was offering a banana peel to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, I can't think of anything that's more opposed to proper offering than offering a banana peel to Krishna. I mean, just like when I'm preparing my offerings for the deities in the morning, I don't offer banana peels. I mean, that would be shocking. Not only do I not offer banana peels, I actually cut the seeds out of the apples, and sometimes if it's an apple, I'll take the skin off of it. I'm very, very careful about these things. Whereas this devotee, he offered banana peels. And why did he offer banana peels? Not because he was thinking that banana peels are better offering for Krishna. He offered banana peels because he was so much immersed in bhakti that he couldn't discriminate between the banana and the banana peel. And Krishna enjoyed it. Krishna enjoyed the banana peel because it was offered with devotion from the heart. So Krishna consciousness is basically based on the heart. The brain is utilized to try to focus the heart. I mean, of course, sometimes we call it Buddha Yoga. Of course, that is Buddha Yoga. Buddha Yoga means the yoga of intelligence, by which you take the intelligence to focus the mind. It's not simply you stay on the intelligence platform, but you utilize the intelligence, as that example is given in the Bhagavad Gita about the chariot being the body, the horses being the senses, the reins being the mind, and the driver being the intelligence. But you use the intelligence. But if one simply thinks that intelligence is the goal, or understanding the different, we should understand, obviously, the different tattvas and the different aspects of devotional service, but all those are meant to help us come to the stage that the gopis are at right now. The gopis are not thinking philosophically at all. They're not thinking, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore we should be feeling this feeling about him. They are directly going to the heart and directly having their feelings in relationship to Krishna. And their feelings are so intense, as mentioned here in the introduction of the chapter, that even though it's just a short time before this that Krishna left their association, it's not like hours and hours and hours. It's just a short time. They're feeling complete misery. And even the example is given here in the introduction of the chapter. Even a blinking of the eye causes them misery. In fact, when they blink their eyes, you all know this story, they get upset with Lord Brahma. Because Lord Brahma created eyes that blink. And I don't even notice when my eyes blink, and I'm sure they are. If my eyes didn't blink, they would dry out and I wouldn't be able to see properly. I'm not even noticing. Can you imagine that intense love when your eyes blink and then it causes you misery? Because you can't see your beloved. I mean, I go to see the deities and my eyes are blinking. And I don't feel anything. I don't see anything. I don't notice. For the gopis, someone at the level of the gopis, that's the love, that's from the heart. The gopis were also praying to have eyes like fish that don't have eyelids. So this is really where we have to get to in Krishna consciousness. I mean, I'm not saying we're all gopis. We have to just put on saris or something like that. But we have to get to the point that yugayitam nimishena chakshusha pravashayitam. Now, what does that mean practically as far as ourselves are concerned? It doesn't mean that we should go around, oh, I haven't seen Krishna. I want to see Krishna. Like the Goswamis of Vrindavan, what is it? Hey Radhe, Vrajake Devake, Hey Nandashuno Kuta. We should be so attached to serving Krishna that anything else other than serving Krishna gives us misery. That's really the point. I mean, that's practical. I remember coming back here. I was flying back on the airplane. And, on the airplane there's always the desire to watch some movie or something like that. I didn't. The only movie I watched was something I had on my computer. It was the latest Matrix movie. Because I wanted to see it. But I felt miserable. I mean, it was something that, let's say, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, would have given me great happiness, and I would have just forgotten about my goal of life. Actually, it's a fact, when you're doing anything else other than Krishna consciousness, it's just like you forget about what your whole goal of life is. And so, I watched it, I thought, well, at least I have an excuse because it's connected somehow or other with spirituality and my preaching. And the simulation hypothesis, which I use a lot when I'm preaching Krishna consciousness at the university. But it was misery. And I think, wow, that's good. That means I'm making some. Not that simply was a bad movie. That's not. That we call it Rotten Tomatoes. Anyway, so that means I'm making some advancement, that I'm feeling miserable when I'm not serving Krishna. That's a sign that you're actually advancing. The only time you feel satisfied is when you're doing something for Krishna, remembering Krishna, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. You're doing the deity worship, you're remembering, you're hearing about Krishna. And this is an emotional thing. That's really the point. I mean, through the intelligence, yes, we can actually try to focus our mind on Krishna. But really the point has to come, as Lord Kapila states in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, like pure devotional service is like when the rivers rush automatically down to the sea, is a very appropriate metaphor. You know, something spontaneous. Just your mind wants to do these things. In the beginning stage, yes, that's Vaidhi, the rules and regulations. That's an intelligence platform. Yes, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to wake up early, not supposed to watch so many videos. But then ultimately we have to come to the point that anything not connected to Krishna causes us this sort of intense misery. And so that's actually what we're learning from hearing from the gopis, hearing about the gopis here in this particular chapter. Yugaitam nimishena chakshusha pravashaitam shunyaitam jagat sarvam Govinda Vidahename. And the final point made here in this chapter summary is that it's not lust. They are desiring to satisfy, as mentioned here, manifestation of their pure desire to satisfy the Supreme Lord's spiritual senses. Try to understand that. They're thinking, we just want to please Krishna. They're not thinking, we want Krishna to appear to please us. So that's the same thing as our mood of service. We feel when we're doing something not connected to Krishna, we're so miserable because we want to do something that pleases Krishna. Because that's our very life and soul, to give Krishna happiness and to give the spiritual master happiness. And the spiritual master's happiness and Krishna's happiness, and like Prabhupada's happiness and Krishna's happiness, are non-different. What makes Prabhupada happy makes Krishna happy. Whoops. Purvaji. Please come in. Not halfway through. Come all the way in. Anyway, so what makes... Please sit down. So what makes... What makes Krishna happy, what makes Prabhupada happy, makes Krishna happy. And so that connection with the spiritual master, with Srila Prabhupada, his divine grace Srila Prabhupada, and that mood of separation from Prabhupada and the mood of wanting to please Prabhupada can be equated with the gopis' ecstasy here. And actually Prabhupada said specifically that the preaching of Krishna consciousness, the spreading of Krishna consciousness, and Prabhupada specifically talking about book distribution, is in the mood of the gopis. So we have to learn that mood. Not that we have to think that we are gopis, but the mood of intense desire to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead senses, Rishikena, Rishikesha Sevanam. Bhakti Uchite has to be cultivated in our hearts, and that is devotional service. And even if we're not able to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, and we're not talking about the regulated principles, of course. Obviously everyone has to follow regulated principles and chant the rounds. But, even if we're a little rough around the edges as far as the, Brahminical Vedic processes, then Krishna will accept that. Krishna says, Ananyas chintayantu mam ye janak paripasate tesham nityavayukta mam yogakshem vahamiham. For those who have their hearts fixed on me, Ananyas chintayantu mam. Ananya means no other focus for their hearts. Chinto mam. Ye janak paripasate. I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. And so that's really the point. So here, the gopis, the best devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the best of all Brahmins, because what is a Brahmin? Maybe we're not talking of Varnashram here, but a Brahmin is one who knows Brahman. That's what a Brahmin is, not simply someone who's ritualistically involved and knows all the details, speaks Sanskrit expertly, but one who knows Brahman. So who knows Brahman, or, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabdite, Bhagavan, better than the gopis? Because you know Brahman by service. Seva mukhehi jivado. Sevane swamevis parachita. So they're the best knowers, so they're the best Brahmins. And that's a fact. And so nowadays there's talks about whether ladies can be gurus in this kind. I knew I was going to get to this point. But if someone loves Krishna, they're the best Brahmins. Isn't it? If someone, from the heart, if they love Krishna, that's really the point. Devotional service is executed from the heart. That's the point. Not simply, some material expertise. So if someone knows, and Krishna, of course, says that in the Gita, he says, anybody can approach me, be thee of lower birth, Sri Sudra Dvijabandhu Nam, Seva Gokara, so whether someone is Shudra, Dvijabandhu. Dvijabandhu actually means a friend of the Brahmin or relative of the Brahmin. So that's even considered a lower birth. If you're born in a Brahmin family, it's interesting, and you don't have Brahminical qualifications, you're considered a lower birth. Wow. Interesting, according to Krishna, the Gita. So anyone who knows Krishna is qualified. Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Se Guru Hoy. Someone who knows Krishna, that person is qualified to be guru. It doesn't matter. But they have to know Krishna. So, any questions or comments? We got 3 more minutes of class. Apurvaji. Everything's controversial.
Trying to understand exactly what's going on with Vasudev and the whole situation in this town. It seems like there's going to be a split. Can you enlighten us?
I think we're going to work things out because when we meet with devotees personally, like everyone wants to please Prabhupada, and my particular strategy, which I suggested to the GBC, the strategy which I am suggesting, which I suggested last night, was that we meet individually with different personalities and come to an understanding. You cannot come to an understanding between different groups of people when you have big meetings. It doesn't work like that because there's a certain type of mob psychology that occurs. So the strategy will be, hopefully they'll take my suggestion, the strategy will be that we will interact individually with different personalities, 1-to-1, 2-to-1, or whatever, or 2-to-2, and come to an understanding of how to please Prabhupada. That's the real point. That's the standard. What will please Prabhupada? Of course, Prabhupada said unity should be there, but diversity also. Like Prabhupada himself talked about having different cultural adjustments according to time, place, and circumstance. I mean, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, one purport Prabhupada talks about this. So we have to discuss. Prabhupada said the business of the GBC is to come together and discuss unity and diversity. So we are being challenged in this particular regard right now. How to respect others' viewpoints. The problem in the U.S. government right now is that the Republicans and Democrats are not respecting each other's viewpoints. And so I think the U.S. situation is actually much more fragile than ISKCON is. In this particular, that concerns me a lot more than the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because I know the sincere devotees will ultimately, although they may talk very strongly or speak very strongly, but the sincere devotees ultimately understand Prabhupada's intention of keeping us together. And we will do what's necessary without changing the philosophy, obviously. We'll do what's necessary to invoke in people's consciousness unity and diversity. And it requires some intelligence, but also dealing with people's feelings and emotions and attachments. It's not simply a philosophical issue. But every one of the devotees that I know wants to serve Prabhupada, but we have to really get to understand each other more. It's a personal relationships, the important thing. Not just one group of devotees against another group of devotees. So that's, that really will divide society. Okay, on that happy note, I'm not worried. I'm more worried about living in America. The Canadian Prime Minister said they're very worried about America becoming a fascist state. A fascist country. I'm not going to talk about politics here, but anyway, I think that's more concerning to me at this point, because I love America. Jai Shri Shri Radhagalukananda Ki Jai. Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajam Bhim Govindam Hari Purusham Bhajamim Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajamim Venam Kanantam Arabindadalaya Vahavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvantam Aravindadalaya Taksham Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kanda Bhagyo Vidamaniya Vishesha Sobha Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ani Asasa Kanan
Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Jalanti Anganati Vayasaru Jala Vinasya Govindam Adi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham.
Goranga Varite Ave Pudakasari Hare Hare Murite Nayane Vahovedir Goranga Varite Ave Pudakasari Hare Hare No Harakabe Itachande Corona Hoebe Samsara Bhashana Mora Kapitu Chahoebe Arakabinitai Chandera Corona Hoebe Samsara Bhashana Mora Gaveli Tuchahoebe Vishaya Chari Akabe Shudabe Mana Kabe Hamahiraboshi Rindavanapa Vishaya Chariya Gabe Shudabe Mana Kavi Hamahirapo Shri Vrindavana Gupa Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoibeakute Kamehama Bhushabose Yugala Pirichi Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoibeakute Kamehama Bhushabose Yugala Pirichi Rupa Raghunatha Pade Rahumorasa Pratana Kore Sata Narottam Mujas Rupa Raghunatha Pade Rahumorasa Pratana Kore Sada Narottam Das Goranga Burite Habe Pulakasadir Hare Hare Burite Nayane Balavenir Goranga Bolite Habe Pulakasare Hare Hare Bolite Nayane Balavenir Goranga Bolite Habe Pulakasare Hare Hare Neva Bene Goranga Bo Viteame Pula Casa Re Hare Ate Bodite Naya Neva Bene Goranga Bodite Habe Pula Casa Re Hare Hare Murite Nayo Neva Dear Goranga Murite Have Pula Kasare Hare Hare Murite Nayo Neva Dear Jairat Hagalokenanurate Jairat Hagalokenanurate Jairat Hey Jayarade, Jayarade, Jayarade. Jayarade, 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 Jayarade. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe, Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Paravatikacharya also tell us that Shri Shrimad, His Divine Grace Sabaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadha, Shri Vasudhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopa Gopanath Shyam Kun Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Maturidam Ki Jai, Jagadata Sami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Lasa Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Haribo. All glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Budale Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Stasis what they would need stasis anybody. Especially at today's journey. So read the translation. When will that opportune moment come to me when I shiver upon chanting the name of Lord Gauranga? When will I cry while chanting Hare Krishna? When will I receive the causeless mercy of Lord Nityananda so that my desires for material enjoyment become insignificant? When will my mind be purified of material anxieties and desires so that I can understand Vrindavana? When shall I be very eager to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis so that I can understand the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna? The lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis are my only shelter. In constant separation from them, I remain Narottamadas. Narottamadas Thakur Ki Jai. Okay, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Pranam Pratasvadanam. Jita Pakripaba Anuraga Janadapi Sunichena Taroriva Shishana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Adanam Najanam Nasundarim. Yeah. Tell them to wear a mask. Yeah, everyone has to. Whoops, I forgot. Actually. Actually, look. Oh, that's right.